Good evening and hello once again. It is a cold winter evening. It is also the 16th day of the January 2025 Character Creation Challenge, as run by TARDIS Captain of RPG.net. TARDIS Captain is also a blogger, and he runs a very fun Discord. Today, we are going to be making a character for a game called Beyond the Hypertrench by HODAGRPG. HODAG is one of the absolute gems of the RPG. I don't want to call it an industry because this man, he makes it art. So of the RPG art world, if you will. HODAG has a history of making really cool games. Many of them are free. This one is not, but I promise you it is worth every penny that you pay for it. And so we'll get a little bit of the background. It's kind of an odd name at first, but HODAG's got this idiosyncratic way of naming his games. They all start, or tend to, with one word and an exclamation point, and then something else and another exclamation point. All of his games are kind of handmade and scanned to the internet. They are made with love. I know that sounds cheesy, but if you go through his material, there's absolutely no other way to describe it. I'll show you where it all started before we do that. Good old HODAG created this game, gosh, I don't even know how many years ago, but it's called Escape, and you'll notice there's an exclamation point right there. The Hypertrench, a solo dice adventure game utilizing 2d6. HODAG, he's filled it with his wonderful art, handmade, released it for free. It's this kind of dungeon crawl solo game with some really interesting mechanics, especially the impact table. And, I don't even know why this material hasn't quite made it out to the wider world. HODAG is a professional illustrator. He's illustrated a lot of other games. I know he's worked for Matt Click, who is a really cool game designer as well, or worked with, I should say. It's gonna sound like I'm just shoehorning this in, but I do have a professional and a bit of a personal relationship with HODAG. He has illustrated some of my books, specifically Knights of Glencarrig, and he's just absolutely wonderful at it. He is a source of wisdom, and for me personally, I dabble as a hobby artist. He's actually helped me quite a bit through it. So there will probably be more time to sing his praises. We're going to get into the game. This is Beyond the Hypertrench. We'll make a character, and then we will, a little later on, talk about kind of this universe he's created. But let's get down to the meat and potatoes of it. HODAG just, he's created a few dozen games, I'd say. But this is the real polished RPG game, if you will. This full game. I won't go over everything because, I want you to buy his book. But we'll just create a character. So, kind of come up with a concept and go from there. Now, if you guys have been watching my series, you'll know that I kind of come up with the concept during character generation, and that's what we're going to do again this time. Speaking of, day 16, we are officially over the hump, and I am jazzed about that. I love making these videos, especially for indie and lesser known games, and if you've got something that you'd like me to take a look at, I'd absolutely love to hear it in the comments. So, first thing you do have to choose is the ethos of your character. Are they just? Are they conflicted about their morality? Or are they unjust? You can't play as an unjust character. Hodag is a good guy. He's a good guy. So we're going to, in honor of Hodag, make a just character. Alright. Now, after that, oops, this is the store page for it. We've got 4 stats at +0, +1, +2, +3. Attack, ability, information, and persona. So, information is your intelligence, persona is your charisma-ish, ability is your body that isn't used for combat. An attack is combat, but also like kind of any type of weapon. So they don't differentiate between like melee weapons and ranged weapons. Attack, ability. Wait. I know that. Information and persona. So, let's go ahead and... Sorry, but this guy's going to be dumb. I'm just worried about his ability to survive in a galaxy far, far away. A long time ago. So now, we've got substats. With star points, and let me just double check, because I don't remember. I think that star points goes with your destiny die. Yeah. Well, so okay. We do have spirit, which is kind of like HP, but also other things. Okay, so star, yeah. It's like XP. So we don't start with that yet. But these are kind of additional substats, like skills that you can get to further empower your character. It's been a minute since I did anything with this system, this particular book, so please pardon my forgetfulness. But now, and this is why I don't really want to go ahead and come up with a concept beforehand, and that's really because the DAG has done the great job for us. So we're going to roll 3 times on this, and we're going to keep 2 of them. And the items that we rolled are elements from our backstory. So 6, 11, and 42. Unlucky, poor student, and powerful rival. I don't want to be unlucky. Don't you play games to escape from reality? Powerful rival. And I've used the capitalization just so that I can remember that those are background elements. If they want to be a Jedi, which in the world of HODAGRPG's Hypertrench trilogy, and I'll explain more about that later, the people who interact with the mystic force that binds the galaxy together are called Oathkeepers. Their spiritual nemesis are called Oathbreakers. I don't know if we're going to start as one or not, so we're just going to zoom on past this. The canon of this, and this is important to bring out, I really want you to check out Hodag's work, but don't be a bad guy, don't display fascist tendencies, and respect the consent of all players at the table. So yeah, the Dominators, or Kaffinar Empire, and I know kind of the secret naming convention behind a lot of these because I've spoken to Hodag. But I'm not going to tell you. I'll let him tell you. But basically the Empire, Neo-Vectors, basically the First Order. Galactic Guild of Bureaucratic Currency, basically the various megacorps that run the galaxy. The Sluglord Crime Empire, they're the Not Huts. And then these guys here, they're your Not Black Suns or Crimson Dawns or whatever other you've got going on. The other lesser crime syndicates. The Oathkeepers are definitely not Jedi, because that's trademarked. The Oathbreakers are clearly not Sith, because again, that's trademarked. And then we've got these other factions, which are cool, but we're not going to get into that quite yet. So, we're going to generate a character archetype. There are 10 types. Like here it says 0 starting with bots. Which actually, this list goes from 0 to 10, which is fine because one of these categories is Oathbreaker, and we're not going to play an evil character, so we'll just count 1, as the 0 result, and we'll skip over. So 5. So starting with 0 as 1, 2 denizens. Those are your people that you see populating your cantinas or your city streets. 2, well, wait a second. It skipped to 3. Okay, well, alright. 3, there is no 2. Underworld. 4, hunters. You know what they mean. 5, liberators. So some type of rebel. Now, each one of these has an entry on a D100. So, my character's going to be a liberator. 8, pretty low. Despecialized ground troop. Okay. And then we'll see what type. Because some of these have a further D6. They don't all, but some of them do. For one of the character types, you can be a loser. So, a 5. We are a failed pilot. Ugh, yeah, that makes sense. So then, there's tons more. Dominators, bad guys. You can't be a dominator. Privateer, you could maybe be a privateer. Oathbreaker, can't be an oathbreaker. Although they do have some kind of good ones. Oathkeeper, not Jedi. 9, tribal. This is when you get to your less technologically developed planets. Interesting, they only go to D20s. And then planetary, officials that kind of make things suck for you. So now, playable species. We're going to... How many are there? Okay. Roll D6, 1 to 3, you're a human. So we'll respect that, even though I kind of want to play an alien. Yeah, so we're a human. I will kind of give you a little bit of a tour of the aliens, though, but, oops. So, these are little species, and let's get back to Escape from the Hypertrench, and I'll show you what they're talking about. Because I don't know if all of them, but most of the species found here in Beyond the Hypertrench made appearances in previous HODAG games. So, for instance, here's a Duneling. Does that look familiar to you? Here's a Dune Lord. Get it? A Suckerface, a Moon Yeti, G-Tooth, an upright robot, a wheeled robot. Are we getting this? What they're meant to be? Taffy Man, Spiderface. Okay. So you get that. The DAG has a lot of different versions of these games, and each one kind of has some more species in it. So if you pick up Beyond the Hypertrench, I really encourage you to get all the Hypertrench universe stuff, and I'll show it to you here again in a little bit. But there's so many aliens you could be. So very, very many. And I think several of them have not necessarily appeared in his previous games, but look, there's a Duneling and a Dune Lord. So, skin tones and markings. So, even though we're a human, I guess, well, we'll do this. Human-like skin. 5. Olive to moderate brown. That's just me. I just made myself in this game. Like, oh, Hodag. My man. It's just turning out to be me. Olive brown skin. Look at this. Well, an underachiever with a powerful rival who failed at what they wanted to be in life. Brown skin. Yeah. Okay. Let's see what other features I end up with. Human-like features, D10. 5 again. Oh, pointed elf-like ears. Oh, I see, yeah. Oh, these are for aliens, so that's not going to work. But I don't have elf-like ears. But again, really none of these are actually human. But let's just say, yeah, elf ears. Okay, there we go. So, now, gear, equipment, and pets. There's a table full of cool things. Now, I'm just going to go through and grab what I want. My kind of favorite Star Wars media is probably Rebels. I know, I'm supposed to like Clone Wars the best. But I just love Rebels. So, I'm not sure why it says 1 to 12 here. Is that... I don't know. But we're going to roll on a D100. Because everyone in Rebels wears a helmet. Which I'm assuming, like they did in Clone Wars, all the clone troopers keeping their helmets on. It's just because they don't want to animate faces. And that's fine. But I just love how everyone has their own helmet. So, 88. What kind of helmet do we get? And we're probably going to roll on the poncho table, too, because there's a poncho table. Liberator Alien Planetary Helmet. Okay. So, that would mean kind of like a helmet used by an official, maybe like a police officer or a firefighter, from a planet that is openly resisting the Coffiniers. So, okay, I'll think of a species for it to be from later. But it sounds rad. Capes, cloaks, ponchos. And we all, if you don't know why, it's because of Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. I want me a poncho. Okay. In the 60s. Wanderer's poncho. Yeah. Oh, man. So, let's see if there's anything else we really want. Fashion, no, because that means, like, the good stuff. Yeah, he should have a backpack. 68. Tri-woven privateer's cargo net backpack. Oh, good, tri-weave. Strong seams that won't rip out. Reminds me of Hudsucker Proxy and those pants. Okay. Anything else we want? Maybe you'll want like a blaster or something. Instruments. Equipment type. So this is kind of cool because you can use it for goods, for loot, whatever. Personal pets. Oh, heck yes. A pet, and then we'll call it good. 72. A horn hog. Okay, alright. So like a horned boar. But nothing that you have as a pet weighs more than 30 pounds. So, here we've got a dude. I think we're just about done with that. Yep. This gets more into, like, there's a ton more game information. With a lot of things that will look really familiar to you if you're a Star Wars fan. We're going to call that good on creating the character. And on that, and we're going to do a HODAG. You know, as it was coming out of my mouth, I thought maybe not the best thing to say. A HODAG dive. It's probably better. Not ideal, but better. So if you go to itch.io, HODAG's got himself a page. And these are kind of in the release order. Okay, this was Escape the Hypertrench, free game. It's what I showed you. Kind of recreates the bit in A New Hope, where they have to get Leia off of the Death Star, survive the Hypertundra, Hypertundra, but you get out of the Hypertrench and you're stuck on a snow planet with this furry thing. And for the life of me, I can't figure out a scenario in Star Wars that fits. You can also get... You saw the kind of handmade look of Escape the Hypertrench. Well, there are some fans who have put together a little bit more print accessible versions of them, and that's good. Destroy the Hyperterminal. This is the conclusion of the trilogy. But that's not all there is to it. We can go to the prequels of the trilogy. Now this is hover racing. This is why Dag is a fan, like the same type of fan as I am. For me, the sweet spot of Star Wars was very late 80s, when the Thrawn books came out. Or was that the very early 90s? It was. And some of the fiction and the comics from Dark Horse, up to like, well, I guess the end of the prequels. Even before the Clone Wars show came out. Because my big jam was the Thrawn novels, the Dark Horse comics, a couple more of the novel trilogies, not all of them, and then like the old books like Splinter of the Mind's Eye. And you'll see in a second why that's my favorite thing. So Destroy the Hyperterminal Digital Edition, just a little kind of easier to read. And then our man went and branched out into fantasy, if you can believe it. Hail and Well Met, Dagmail Revised. Battle for St. Basilisk is, it's a kind of a solo-ish RPG that you're Batman, basically. Out from the Glens is kind of a Hobbit thing. The D2021 Dice Adventure Game Rules is it's a fantasy RPG. There is a supplement for it that's sci-fi set in the Hypertrench universe, and we'll show that. Space's End. Look at that. That is a Star Trek font. A Star Trek font. And you know how long the game has been coming soon? Mr. Hodag, you've got my heart in your hands. I need to see a Dag Trek, or I will die. Hi-ho down to Appletown and the ruins of Pybrock. Small town. I haven't actually used this one. I'm more of a sci-fi fan. Scream into the void. Yeah, it's Alien. And it's fun. It is a similar play setup style as Escape the Hypertrench. Who is the toughest man in Wisconsin? It's like a barroom brawl game. And you have to it's steeped in Wisconsin lore. I'm not a Wisconsinite, but many of the people on my dad's side of the family are. And that game is just kind of funny and perfect. Kingdomites of Technoskull Island is a not He-Man game. Yeah. Mother Flip in space, almost no one can hear you cuss. It's fake cussing, because every sci-fi game has to have its own swear words. Playtest of Lodag, Zero Dag expanded character, more Zero Dag. This, Duel of the Oaths, a beam sword dueling game. So, kind of like Phantom Menace, and the prequel era Jedi lightsaber fights. It's set in the same universe as the Hypertrench, obviously. War for the Planet Caravan is its own game. Again, Hypertrench. But they use card games, or a deck of cards for it. Summer Tour, I remember this one, but I don't think I've actually played it, but it's like following a band around. Wilderness D8, Destruction of the Starhook Citadel, which itself is a reference to Shadows of the Empire, which was the most hyped Star Wars book ever. It gave us Prince Shizor and Dash Rendar, whom I've heard described as the Poochie, if you get the Simpsons reference, of the Star Wars universe, and it's kind of true. But this is for the D2021 game rules, but it's also kind of set in... it is set in the Hypertrench universe. And we've got some more. Accelerated Warlords and Wisemen. Play the game based on the toy line, based on the cartoon, based on the game. Hodag and I are similar ages, similar upbringings, this kind of thing. Yeah, I get it. Hyper Heroes of the New Millennium is interesting because it's a superhero game based on movies, but like nothing before the MCU came out. Like maybe the first Iron Man, but like the Eric Bana Hulk, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, the Bryan Singer X-Men, that's what you get. Power of the Trench. There's another Power of the Trench thing. But it's like a toy action figure game. So if you happen to have that type of action figure lying around, you can play it. And there's another version of it up here, if I remember right. This is not Indiana Jones game. 2 guys in chainmail hitting each other. So, okay, this is the thing. Hodag will put out games on his birthday. And if you forget to log in, you don't get that game. But that's just, that's how it is with Hodag. And that's fine. So, Power of the Trench, this is the full version of it. D-Book, PDF, use your action figures. Splinter at the Eye Mine. Splinter of the Mind's Eye is a bananas Star Wars book. It was the first piece of Star Wars spin-off ever, and it's crazy because Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader have a duel with lightsabers in front of a giant statue of Cthulhu, and Luke gets his hands on a gem that makes him more powerful than anyone, and he gets possessed by Obi-Wan and cuts off Vader's arm. And that's actually something that happened in a book. It doesn't happen in this, but it's a tribute to it. Use this dungeon. Lair of the Minotaur. Actually, I have not done that one. Coming soon. Ringless. I wonder what that could be. Coming soon. Temple of the Snake Cult. Legende, the Elf of Legend, which is like a Zelda very, very mini game. Reach for the Stars, which is not Firefly. The HODAGRPG. I know he'd worked on that for a long time. Hillfolk of Avalon. Paranormal Janitorial, like Ghostbusters. Coloring Page Jam. Action World Builder Guide. He's got that 12v12 game. This is like an expansion for that. Skeleton. I don't know this one. Time Travel to Skeleton Castle. Halloween Double Feature. Dark Fantasy D8. All Hallows Eve. I know it's a lot, but I'm happy to... if you know, like, 20th century American art, that's pretty cool. Just plain spooky. Hypertrench Origins is episode 1. Dungeon Crawls. Let's make a mixtape. Bad Guys and Even Worse Guys. Okay. Again, Dag and I are very similar people in our tastes. Old wrestling. I don't do anything with wrestling anymore because of some really bad actors in that scene, but it brings me back to my childhood. Not Mortal Kombat, This is not Primal Rage. Beyond the Playtest, Electro Dungeon, Meat Grinders, and Malevolent Gods. Beyond the Hypertrench, some more stuff. This is the full version of Beyond the Hypertrench. This is a mini book for it. Beneath the Dungeon Floor. Again, this is a war game for the Hypertrench. So much. Now this, okay, this right here, this was the last game he released that happened to be on his birthday, and I forgot to log in. So, it's a game about Atlantis before it fell, but I'll never know. And this is a game coming out soon. So again, it's a lot. There's so much DAG that you can have in your life, and you need it. So, with that said, I'm going to let us all go, and I will see you guys tomorrow.